Hi, my name is Kathy Binner, and this is the Ohio Writers Guild. And we meet up once a month. And I always have to look at my calendar to make sure I say the correct time. It's the second Tuesday of every month. And normally we were coming on at 6:30, but recently we've changed that to 6 o'clock. All of our other meetups are at 6, and I changed it to 6 so that I don't forget. That way everything's at 6 o'clock on Tuesday nights. So tonight we're going to be talking with Lynne Modranski. Did I say that last name correctly?
You did.
Modranski. Yeah. Okay. But before we jump into the conversation with Lynne, I want to tell you just a little bio about myself. I spent 25 years in the salon industry. And when I retired in December of 2017, I started the Kathy Binner International Academy, and I am all about passive income. And so I have 8 different lanes on how you can create passive income, and you can find me at kathybinner.com. And I will put that in the replay. So anybody that wants to check anything out that I am doing. And we got a couple of folks in the audience already this evening. We may get more closer to 6:30 because we've always been on at 6:30 before. So a lot of folks may jump on at 6:30. So anyway, I do have the passive income, and back along the way, I received a phone call and was asked if I would facilitate and kind of take over the Ohio Writers Guild. And it was such an honor for me to do this. The gentleman that was right ahead of me, it was huge shoes to fill. He passed away, and so they were looking for someone to facilitate this particular group, and I agreed that I would stay on and do that. And so since then, I have added about 300 new members to the group. So I've got my posted up here I've got a bulletin board behind my desk here. And in our writers group, in our meetup, we have 328 members in our actual meetup. And in our Facebook, we have over 1,000, 1.16. And so we have quite a large group. And so a lot of folks, they don't tap in when we're actually interviewing someone, but the replays are up there. We do have a podcast. This particular interview is turned into a podcast on Audio Boom. It's across maybe 8 different channels. And today I just got notice that we have been included on Amazon Podcast. So we are now on Amazon Podcast. So you can find us wherever you get your podcast, and it's under Freestyle Living with Kathy Binner. And the Ohio Writers Guild is simply one of those 8 lanes that I'm in. So that's a little bit about me. Sandy has agreed graciously to be my co-mod, my co-facilitator, if you will. And I'm excited to introduce her this evening. And then at the very end of our call, we're going to turn it back over to Sandy, and she is going to share about a writer's retreat that she has coming up. And we want everybody to know all about that in case you want to join her. Is it called a retreat, Sandy? Did I say that right?
Workshop, conference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And I am jumping up now in my participants, and I am actually making Sandy my co-host because what happens is sometimes we get bumped off of a Zoom call. I don't know if anybody's ever gotten bumped off. And Zoom now makes us have a waiting room or an ID to get in. And so we chose waiting room. So that way, if I happen to get bumped off, Sandy can let me back in. So Sandy, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us just a little bit about your background and mention the Writers Retreat. And then before we close out the call, you can talk again about the Writers Retreat.
Yeah. I will do that. Hi, everyone. I'm Sandy Kachurk, speaking from Springfield, Ohio, if you know where that's at, somewhere around Dayton, between Dayton and Columbus. And like a lot of writers, for 30 years, I taught high school English and thought, hey, if I could teach a short story, certainly I could write one. Well, that sure does. That sure requires a learning curve as well. But I have enjoyed the process, and it's always a learning curve, but I've loved it. And I've done a lot of things. Writing retreats are something I have organized many, many times for my writers group that met in Columbus. And I know a lot of retreat areas that are once convents And they have turned them into renewal centers and retreats. So I've led a lot of writers' retreats out there just to hang out and get the words on the page. Because sometimes even when you're all by yourself, you could really use a retreat away from everything, like looking out those windows really need cleaning. Here at a retreat, someone else's problem. I could just write. So I've done a lot of that. And over the last couple of years, I have become the director of Into the Springs Writers Workshop in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And that it's amazing how something that's just a weekend long could take a lot of work. And it's still in its infancy. I've been with it since 2018, but took over as director last year. And so developed it, renamed it. So that's a learning process too. But, again, in the writing world, in the teaching world, everything is learning. So I was chatting about my workshop in April, and then I sat in on another podcast here, and then Kathy said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I thought, well, here comes another learning curve. But yes, I agreed to, because Kathy seems like the best teacher around. So that's me.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Sandy. I don't know about being the best teacher around, but I sure love bringing folks together, and I love promoting everyone's message, especially when they have a message that's so valuable. And your message about this workshop and retreat is incredibly valuable for our listeners. And again, this is the Ohio Writers Guild. You don't have to live in Ohio, but a lot of our folks do live in Ohio, and they've tapped in. And so Yellow Springs is just not that far away to get there. It's one of my favorite little places, by the way. And we go over there sometimes just for a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
So anyway, we love Yellow Springs. You'll love it too. So check out the actual writers workshop. And Sandy, we're going to move on to Lynne, and I'll let you, if you make sure in the chat that you type it to everyone, you can actually put your link there. If you open up the chat, and you can see there's a little drop down, and you can either send something just to the host and panelists or to everyone. Make sure it goes out to everyone, and put the link there, and folks that are listening can actually save that link and tap through and check out the actual writers retreat with the writers workshop. For those of you that are listening on the podcast that's going to listen in later, and you're not seeing our chat, I will include that link in the description of the podcast. So folks that are listening on a podcast format instead of on our Zoom call, our live Zoom call, you'll still be able to get that link. So I want to now segue over to Lynne. Lynne is a Christian author and editor who loves helping people discover the love of Jesus and move churchgoers from rules to relationship. She has been a student of scripture for more than 35 years and enjoys digging deep into biblical history and using her imagination to fill in the holes of the scripture timeline. She's used this approach with her devotionals, her curriculum, and her Bible studies. She's especially loved combining her imagination with historical research to bring Adira, did I say that right? Journey from Freedom to Life. Did I say the word right, the name?
Adira.
Adira. I left the last A off.
Yeah.
Adira, Journey to Freedom to Life. With Adira, Lynne takes her first plunge into fiction, bringing to life the story of Nehemiah through the eyes of a 13-year-old. How interesting is that? Lynne has been married to Steve for more than 40 years. She is a pastor's wife for almost 30 years. She loves leading worship and partnering with her husband in ministry. She leads several small groups and provides life coaching services. And in their spare time, they enjoy golf and kayaking, as well as spending time with their 3 daughters and son-in-law, as well as their 4 grandchildren. Wow, Lynne has more than 30 books on Amazon. All right, writers out there, you can do it. She's got more than 30 books on Amazon. Her latest, Devotions Inspired by Life, can be found, of course, on Amazon. So again, we'll get her to put that in the link in the chat before we go. Her next release, Adira, Journey to Freedom, is currently on Kindle Vella and will be released in paperback this fall, and read it on Kindle Vella again on Amazon. And we'll get those links for you. So gosh, Lynne, how impressive is all that? And people look at me and they go, what haven't you done? Well, I think I've met my match. Tell us how about your writing journey? Tell us how you got to where you are today. What's your backstory?
Well, I actually started writing poetry when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I thought that all kids did. I did not realize that I was an anomaly.
Okay.
My cousin and I would get wallpaper samples. Grandma had books of wallpaper samples, and we
I
would
remember
write
those.
poems. Yeah, we would write poems inspired by the wallpaper sample.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's how I started. I moved into writing songs. I'm a musician. I love music. I play every instrument that I can get my hands on, and 4 or 5 of them I even play in public.
See, now that wasn't even in your bio.
No, I don't. I used to tour and sing. I have a couple albums, and I just don't do that anymore. So it never makes the bio. I'm the worship leader at my church, so I still am very much into music. But I moved from poetry to songwriting. I even took songwriting lessons from an A&R representative at Brentwood Music. And you would be amazed the songwriting techniques that fit in book writing.
Wow.
Interesting.
As I started writing books and started, I've taken some classes with Jerry Jenkins, and I've taken some classes with Ted Decker, just online. Anybody could take those. Just look for them. You can find them. And they're not very expensive. I don't pay much for anything. So the Jerry Jenkins and Ted Decker both offer writing classes. And so I started taking their classes, and it was like, oh my goodness, I learned a lot of this stuff in songwriting classes. The whole redundancy thing and just little tiny things like that, they transferred over. So I learned a lot of that. And I actually started writing Advent readings for the church. And that I've written Advent readings for about 25 years now. And a lot of those are on Amazon. But that went into devotions, because Advent readings are basically just devotions for Christmas. And then my church needed curriculum. I just couldn't find anything that really fit our church, because we had a very small Sunday school. And so I started writing curriculum. And this was in 2010, before really Amazon was big or anything. But I put it out there on the internet. Does anybody want to buy it? Because I had written it already, right? It was a 52-week curriculum, and people started buying it. Like all over the world, people started buying it.
How fun is that?
I would be amazed. Like I'd come into my husband, somebody from South Africa just ordered my curriculum.
Wow.
Because it was just digital. And so that's when I decided, well, maybe I could really do this thing. Because the Advent readings were just for my church. I didn't actually sell them to anybody. I just wrote everything I wrote before was for my church. And then it was like, well, shoot, maybe I could actually do this for real. Maybe I'm a writer and I didn't even know it. And so for the past probably 10 years, I learned how to do, used to be Create Space. Now it's KDP. And I learned how to navigate KDP, and I'm not patient enough to wait on a traditional publisher.
Okay, so you're self-published. Everything that you've written, you just upload it through KDP.
Yes.
And so you've become very proficient with how to maneuver all of that formatting. That's always the complaint I hear from everyone. They're like, oh, how do you figure out the formatting? So I see a course there that you could write.
KDP actually has a new, it's a Kindle app.
Okay.
You put it in there and it formats it and everything.
Oh, so it does it for you now?
Yes.
Because that was always the complaint.
Yes, it used to be you had to do it in Word and you had to tag things certain ways, but no, they have it's Kindle Create. It's an app that Amazon has created, and you open a Word document and it converts it into Kindle, and then you can go through and pretty it up if you want to. It'll even put little pretty things under the title and all kinds of you drop caps.
Well, I typed Kindle Create in the chat. And again, I'll include that for those that are listening to this later on a podcast format. I'll include that and check that out, because we are, as a writers guild, we are here to support all writers. It doesn't matter whether you're blogging on Facebook.
Exactly.
If you're creating, if you're creative and you're doing that writing, we want to support you in however you are expressing your message. So for those that are interested, that Kindle Create is in the chat. So today, who would be your primary audience today? Now, you started writing for your church,
Yes.
and but then you started, putting this through Kindle up into Amazon. Has your audience kind of taken on a life of its own?
Most of my audience are churched people. And it's not that I don't want to evangelize. It's just, I feel this passion to empower people who are in church leadership and people who are trying to grow in Christ. I just have this passion for that. I think because I had my discipleship when I was a teenager was very lacking, and I fell off. Oh, that's a whole nother interview. But it gave me this passion to make sure that people who are in the church are being discipled, and to make sure that they understand the relationship with Jesus Christ rather than the rules. Because I grew up with the rules of Christianity. I know all of them. So that's where my passion is. So that's where my biggest audience is church leaders, Sunday school teachers. And then it's kind of gotten into a women's ministry. A lot of my devotions, women really appreciate more than men, which is okay. And then my fiction book is probably definitely a women's fiction. So that's kind of where it's kind of moved to.
Okay. Now, when you talk about a women's fiction, is there like lessons or as we like to say, the moral of the story? Is there like a conclusion that women could use this fiction book even in a small group setting, or is it just more for entertainment?
I hope so. I'm actually creating book club questions, and I'm going to create a Bible study to go with it.
Okay.
Because Adira, she starts out at the beginning of the book, she's 13, but the book of Nehemiah covers 12 years. So in it, she gets to be 25 at the end. So
okay.
She's there for that, because after 12 years, Nehemiah celebrates the finishing of the wall. And so I wanted to go from the building of the wall to the finishing of the wall, but now I have these 12 years I have to fill in, that there isn't much stuff in Nehemiah to cover. So the first 3 parts of Adira follow the book of Nehemiah very closely, like I said, through the eyes of a 13-year-old, just how it would seem to her to watch her dad and her uncle build this wall. But then when you get to part 4, I had to fill in 11 years. So it's Adira growing up. And in the first 3 parts, she struggles with her parents' faith. She doesn't understand why they want to go back to Jerusalem. Persia has all these gods. They're wonderful. Why in the world would they want to settle for this one God who abandoned them and sent them away from Jerusalem? And why do they want to go back to Jerusalem? And so she spends the first 3 parts really struggling with that. And then in part 4, where it really tells her story, she ends up being kidnapped and going into slavery. And it's her learning as a slave what true freedom is, and figuring out where home really is, because she keeps wanting to get home, obviously, but she eventually finds out that home is with God. And when she can get home with God, she's home. So hopefully it can be more than just an entertaining story.
Wow, I can see that. I can see where you can weave so many lessons in a book such as that, and to so many different age groups. And so if your audience is a lot of times, the church, so to speak, I can see that used even in some of the youth Bible studies.
Yes. Yeah. Especially since she starts out at so young. Would you like to see the cover?
I would love to. Yes.
Yeah. It's set to release August 30th. Oh, good. But I have a few advanced reader copies.
Okay.
So there is Adira.
Oh, very good. Journey to Freedom.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, August 30th, I'm going to have a huge release party.
Okay.
It's going to be like an all-day release party.
Now, where are you physically located, Lynne?
I am almost as far away from Sandy as I possibly can get in Ohio.
I'm not taking that personally.
Nope, but I can see West Virginia out my back door. So
Okay.
I'm in Steubenville, Ohio, which
Okay.
is only about 20 minutes from Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, when you said Springfield, it's like, oh my, that's as far as you can go the other way, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right at the southeast corner of Columbus, right outside the
Okay.
outer belt. So Columbus is my closest big city. But yes, Lynn, you are very close to Pittsburgh there. When you do your major shopping, do you go into Pittsburgh?
Yeah, concerts and all that kind of stuff is Pittsburgh. Robinson Township is yeah, it's maybe 20 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, it's easy for us to get there.
Well, interesting. When I first met you at a conference, what book were you on then? Because you did not have.
No, I was just in the handwriting phase of Adira then.
Okay.
Because I can't type in fiction because I tend to edit as I write, and I can't do that with fiction. I need to just go.
You need to just get the storyline out and
Yes.
then come back. Yeah.
Yes. So I hand wrote the whole thing, then I typed the whole thing in.
Oh my.
Yeah. So last October, I might have started typing it in by then. I might have,
Okay.
but I was just typing it. So yeah, when I saw you, I had my devotion books with me. Let me grab those. Oh, I could have put them a little closer to me.
Hey, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, for those that are listening in on the podcast, Lynn is getting her books to show us.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Here. So devotions inspired by life.
Okay.
And devotions for church leaders and small groups. And this book I actually have had out for a while, but I did a revised edition of it in 2020. Updated it, edited a little bit cleaner.
Now, all of these folks can find on Amazon. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So just remember Lynne Modranski.
Actually, you just have to type Modranski.
Okay. And for those
I'm the only one on there, I promise you.
And for those that are listening, I'm going to put all of this in the definition of the actual podcast. So all of it will be there. You don't have to take notes. I'll put it all in there for you. So tell us, what has been your publishing experience from day one? What was the first book? And what made you decide, I think I'm going to write a book and get it published? Tell us a little more in depth about that journey.
Well, like I said, the first thing that I really ever published was my children's curriculum. I had written it for our church, and it took me a year to write it. And I just put it out there for a few people, and they took it. So I started looking around, and I found out that I could publish. I actually started with Lulu. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Lulu.
I've heard of it. Yes.
Okay. Lulu's good to work with. I don't have any problems with them at all, especially if you don't want a barcode on the back of it. If you have a book that you do not want a barcode on the back of it, Lulu's where to go, because you don't have to have Amazon. You have to have a barcode.
Right.
Lulu, you don't have to have a barcode. And Lulu would put them on Amazon. Amazon would pick them up off of Lulu. And
now, at that point, would Lulu have a barcode once Amazon picked it up?
No.
Okay.
I don't know why but they, and it could be Amazon changed policy, because this was in 2011. So
Okay, could be.
it could be they changed policy since then. But basically I was writing anyway, and I thought, if I can make a little money off of this, why shouldn't I, right? And so once I found Create Space, I moved everything over to there. And then I've been writing Advent readings since about 1990, probably 1994, but I have all the ones from 1998 in my computer. And so I went back and I published some of my old Advent readings and put them on there. And then every year since I got on Amazon, I've put the Advent readings on there. And so that's basically been my publishing experience, is just going from Lulu to to create space. And like I said, it was just stuff I was already writing. I was already producing these things for my church and my family. So I just thought I might as well try to make some money, right?
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. I've always been writing, but I've never had anything published. And then once I retired, I decided to create the Kathy Bender International Academy. And of course, I wrote all my courses, and I've got all of that, and I've got some ebooks and that sort of thing. But I finally get to be a published author in September. My book launches September 6th. So I get it. So now I've got the bug. You know how that is. So why do you write, Lynne? Do you have the bug? What is it that keeps you writing all the time?
I just get these ideas and I have to put them down. It just kind of leaks out of me. Words have always just leaked out of me. When I was writing music, I would be running the sweeper and like this song would come into my head and I would have to stop and write it down. I worked at a recording studio for a while. It was such a nice job to have, because Frank would know that if he came into my office right when I got there, that meant that I had written a song on the way to work.
Okay.
and I just sang it all the way there till I could get a piece of paper and pencil and write it down. Because, this is back before we had phones that would record things.
Yeah.
So I just feel like words have leaked out of me since I was a little girl, that I just can't keep them in. I wrote short stories in high school. I remember my freshman year of high school, I was in a sophomore English class and we had to write a short story. And at the time I didn't think anything of it, but mine was the only one that the teacher said, we need you to read this out loud. And she had me stand up in front of the class and read the story out loud. And at the time, again, I just didn't think anything about it. Mm-hmm. But I do remember being the only one who had to do that. So like I said, I just have stuff in me that has to come out.
So you have some of that inherent talent, obviously, and you're putting it to good use. And so everything has kind of evolved from just hearing your story. So will Adira have a sequel? Will there be more?
People have already been asking, the people, because I have a street team who's been reading it, and I've had several people who have asked me. Adira has a friend named Miriam who was kidnapped with her. And people want to know Miriam's, because they were separated right after that. So she never saw Miriam again after she was 16. And I've already had a couple people ask me, so are we going to find out Miriam's story? So we might. I've really been praying about it. It's like, okay, Lord, where did I don't know where Miriam went. So I have to figure out where Miriam went before I could write her story.
Now, I've heard other authors say this. They say sometimes when they write, they don't even know where the story is going to go as they're writing it. Does that happen to you, or do you pretty much know where you want to end up with your storyline?
I knew the bones of it, that I wanted this to be a story of her moving into God's arms. Okay, so I knew that. But there is a romantic part in this book, and there was not supposed to be. This was not going to be a romance at all. When this guy showed up in the barn while she was milking a goat, I was as shocked as anything.
She had other plans for your story, didn't she?
Yeah. So there is a tad bit of romance in there, besides just the which I suppose what really kicked it into women's book after. But that was never, ever part of the plan. Not ever was that part of the plan. When I wrote that part, I saw my sister like a couple of days later, and I've been keeping my sisters up on what I was doing. And I'm like, you won't believe this. Adira just met a guy.
So tell us what your day looks like. You say it just comes out of you. Do you have a schedule on how you write? We've got a lot of wannabe writers in this group. We have a lot of published authors. We have a lot that write that are not published, but we have a lot that want to be writers. And they're like, what does your life look like when you're a writer? Do you write every day? Do you have a certain time of day? What are the tools of the trade for you?
I probably write every day. I don't write the same thing every day, because I'm working on Bible studies, and right now I'm working on a Bible study, a children's curriculum, and finishing the last proof of Adira, and a book, and another nonfiction book. So the children's curriculum, I have to write every week because I'm giving it to my Sunday school teachers at church. So one day a week, I write children's curriculum. And then the rest of the time is kind of easy. One of the things that I have done recently to really get into the discipline of writing every day, and I've been wanting for years to put more on my website because I'm really not a good blogger. But I recently read a book by Philip Yancey on prayer, and I did the Bible study that went with it. And in the Bible study, he has, at the end of each lesson, he has like 40 verses. And when I was reading those as I was going through the study, it's like, oh my goodness, so many of these verses I've read, but I've never read them deeply. They're not the ones, they're not memory verses. They're ones that are easy to read it and okay, I read that and move on. But it's like, oh, so I've been blogging those verses, and I do that at least 4 mornings a week. And I do that first thing. It's actually part of my devotion time. I find the next verse in Philip Yancey's book and I pray about it. And I just start writing in my blog. I don't even put it in Word first. I start writing in my blog, but it just forces me to write something that I hadn't planned to write. Because I'll get a lot of ideas. I also recommend that if you really want to write, you need to have a notebook with you all the time so that when you get an idea, you can write it down. I have Post-it notes in my Bible. So on Sunday morning, when my husband's preaching, if he says something that gives me an idea, I put it on a Post-it note and then I put it in the scripture where the idea came from. So I have Post-it notes sticking out of my Bible.
Wow.
So that's your version of a memory board. I've got an actual push pin, cork board behind my desk, and I have Post-it notes. And so as the storyline unfolds, I can move my Post-it notes over into which column it needs to go in to do that. So that's kind of my mapping, because I like to see it visually like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can make a note of where I want that character to go, or like you said, you get a great idea, and then I can expand on it when I have time to sit down and kind of write it out.
Yes, yeah,
So,
and yeah, mine are these Post-it notes, and then I have notebooks that I'll expand on in my notebooks. I have notebooks and notebooks. My kids are gonna just love it when I'm gone. They have to go through all these notebooks because I won't throw any of them away.
well, now we've talked about, you're writing every day, and then, of course you started publishing, early on with Lulu, and then finally rolled it over to Kindle. What has been your experience with the Kindle Vella?
I just started Kindle Vella in January. I think this week is 1 year. It's 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, it's kind of new.
I wanted to get some traction for Adira before it came out because I don't have a huge platform. And so I just needed to get word out about Adira. So that's where it is. It's really easy to use. You can schedule your episodes because what Kindle Vella is, it's a story that comes out by episode, like a television show. So you can have my chapters in my book are very short, so I would put 2, sometimes 3 chapters in each episode. Some authors just put 1 chapter per episode, but you can put 600 to 5,000 words. Let me warn you though, I did not know this. Other authors told me after they went in and read it, it's like, usually we don't have more than 1,200 words in an episode. It's like, oh, well, that's good to know. So I'll warn you, 5,000 is a long episode because I put 5,000 my first few. The first 3 episodes, anybody can read for free. So that's really nice because if you want to explore books on Kindle Vella, you can get into it pretty far for free. So I also wanted to give people a big chunk of mine for free so they'd be hooked.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. And then after that, Kindle Vella sells tokens, and every episode it's 1 token for every 100 words, I think. Because a 600 word episode is 6 tokens, And
Okay.
the tokens are a penny a piece. So it's not too awfully expensive. You can read a whole book for $5.
Okay.
And then the author gets half of that back. So you get a half a penny for every 100 words. Now, something I didn't know when I got on Kindle Vella, because I just got on so I could get Adira traction. I did not get on there to make money.
Okay.
But Amazon pays bonuses for Kindle Vella. And I've made some serious money in the bonuses for Kindle Vella. I was shocked when the first bonus came through. There are a lot of Facebook groups for Kindle Vella, and the authors there are very supportive. Every group I've gotten into, the authors are so tremendously supportive. They give you reads. I've done some newsletter shares with other Christian authors there. And like I said, some of those people are making $1,000 a month on bonuses from Kindle Vella.
You know, there's, again, I teach passive income, and one of the lanes is writing, because you can write from anywhere in the world and monetize so many different ways.
Yeah, I highly recommend Vella. And if you happen to write like Christian sci-fi, oh, that's hot. That is just absolutely hot. If you do Christian zombie, I don't get into that, but some people do. But it is, the zombie stuff is hot on Kindle Vella. Like,
Who knew? Who knew?
Yeah. So if you do that, definitely put it on Kindle Vella, because you'll make some money at it. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. What is your favorite thing about the indie publishing community? What's your favorite thing?
Everyone I've met in the indie publishing community is just so supportive. Nobody like hides anything or wants to. Everybody's just willing to just share information, and it's just been so helpful. I highly recommend that if you want to write, get involved with some kind of indie community, either on Twitter, on Facebook, like this community, because everyone I have met has given me information, and I've been able to do a lot of things and not spend a lot of money.
Well, that brings us to a good point. Sylvia wants to know why in the beginning, when you went with Lulu, was there a reason that you didn't want a barcode, or it just wasn't a concern of yours at the time?
It just really wasn't a concern of mine. I didn't know enough to even know that I might need a barcode.
Okay, you just were trying to get published, and it was an opportunity, and you got published.
Yeah, because I didn't even realize right at first, I didn't realize that Lulu would even put it on Amazon. I just needed someplace where I could get it printed at a very low cost so that I could sell it to other people.
Okay.
And that was my whole goal, was just get it printed at a decent price where I could do 1 or 2 off, because I couldn't afford to buy 500. All these other places want you to buy 500, 5,000, whatever. I couldn't afford that. I needed.
And so at that point, you just didn't know what you didn't know. And so again, we know now, if you're going to get into Amazon or you're going to get into Barnes and Noble, you have to have the ISBN code, because that's how the books buy and sell and are returnable and all that sort of thing. And so that's why that's a requirement to get in, to play with the big boys, if you will. But you just wanted to get in print, and it served its purpose at the time. Yes,
because at the time I was shipping out myself. Like I said, I didn't realize that Lulu that Amazon went to Lulu and pulled stuff off of it. I didn't even know that. So my big thing was I needed to get them in my hands so I could ship them to other people.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. I hope we've answered your question, Sylvia, about the barcode. What other books do you have in the wings, Lynne?
My next book is going to be Embracing Your Priscilla.
Embracing Your Priscilla. That's an interesting title.
Yes. Priscilla and Aquila were friends of Paul's. And the more that I've read, and she's only mentioned 6 times in the Bible, but the more that I read it, I see a very strong, independent woman there who didn't need the feminist movement to be everything she was in Christ. And my intro to the book, it talks about the fact that when my husband went into ministry, a lot of people wanted me to go into ministry. we need more women in ministry, and we need women preachers. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not against women preachers, nothing like that. I just wasn't called. That wasn't my call. And I really struggled, because then I had other friends who were like, well, you can't preach. You're a woman. You can't preach. I was like, well, there has to be some place in between those two views, because neither one of those work for me. And then I started reading Priscilla, and it's like, wait a minute. She was a leader in the church, and in a time when women didn't lead anything. So there is a place for those of us who don't feel the need to say, I'm a woman and but don't want to be beat down either. There's a place for us. And so that's who this book is for. This book is for those people who don't want either extreme. We just want to serve Christ the way we've been called to serve Christ. And you know what? I am a strong person. I have a strong personality. Sometimes I can be a little intimidating. I know that. I'm sorry, but it's just who Jesus made me to be. And I want to just be who Jesus made me to be and do what Jesus called me to do. And being a woman should have nothing to do with it.
Well, I certainly can feel your passion when you speak. So I get it. And I can see this book that you have in the wings. I can see it also being some sort of a book that can work in a small group environment, or a women's group, especially a women's group. And I can just see it really soaring in all of the Christian circles. So, gosh, this has been great, Lynne. You're a powerhouse, and it's going to just keep coming. I can tell. It's like you said, it just comes out of you. My husband and I met with a financial guy, because we can retire in 7 or 8 years. And he was like, well, when do you plan to retire? And I was like, never. I said, I can write and edit from my rocking chair. I really don't plan to ever retire. I don't know what that really, I don't know if I could. Well, and it doesn't feel like work to you. It's what you do. It's who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I get that. Yeah. This is my retirement gig.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see myself retiring either. I get that. We've got some folks in the audience. If there are any questions, you can put them in the chat, and make sure that you do the little drop down bar that says to everyone, so that we can see them. If you make them just to the host and panelists, I can still read them out to everyone. So if you have any questions for Lynne, let us know. And Lynne, if you could go to the chat to everyone, and do you have a website or a way that folks can connect with you? Let us know how to find you.
All right. Well, the best way is LynneModranski.com. And all of my books are linked. Like, if you prefer to buy them on Amazon, if you want the Kindle version, I have them all linked to the Kindle right on there. So if you go to my website, you don't need the Amazon links there.
Okay. Because they can link right through. Yeah.
And if you want to find me on any social media, Twitter, Instagram, I don't do much with Instagram, but I'm on there. I'm not on TikTok. I'm sorry. I have not gotten that far yet. But Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I think this is for LinkedIn too. LinkedIn, Goodreads is just the @Lynne Modranski.
Okay.
And if you shelve Adira on Goodreads, I don't know how many of you are on Goodreads. If you're an author, you should be on Goodreads. And you should have an author page on Goodreads, even if you haven't written your book yet. You'll find out that I've had Adira on Goodreads for over a year, to build hype for it. And then I've marked it as like 1% done, 2% done, 3% done, as I wrote it. But if you shelve the book on Goodreads, I'm going to do a drawing on August 30th from all the people who have shelved the book on Goodreads. So all you have to do is put it on one of your shelves, your to be read shelf. Or if you want to, I have a couple advanced reader copies here. If you like to review books, I'll let you advance read it and review it for me. I'd love that.
I am making a note here in the chat. There's a drawing on August 30th if you shop on Goodreads. So I put that on there. I just want to go back and repeat this. Tim wanted to know, he said he missed why Lynn didn't want barcodes. It's not she didn't, it's just that she didn't know what she didn't know, and she just wanted to get in print, and she just happened to choose Lulu that didn't give her a barcode. So she's now on Amazon and has barcodes.
Yes.
So now she can play with the big boys. So anyway, that's how you can find Lynn, and simply go to her website. And is there a link there to your Goodreads as well?
It's just goodreads.com/Lynne Modranski.
Okay, good. So you can find her just with the @ with her name. I put all of that in the chat. For those of you that are listening on the podcast version instead of on the Zoom version, I will put all of that in the description as well, so that you can find her all different ways. And Lynn, thank you so much. This has been so exciting. I can't wait. I'm now going to look you up and see all the great things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're just not that far away from us.
No,
I mean,
not far at all.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Are you
my
at the conference this year?
I'm not going to make it this year now.
Okay.
But my grandson is not far from you. He is going to the Ohio State University.
Okay. Yep. I'm about 20 minutes from Ohio State. So yes. I love it. Lynn, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you came on and chatted with us today. This has been very informative. I'm now inspired. Again, this is my first book that I'm publishing September 6th. So now I'm very inspired to get to writing some more. And I would love to attend, and we're going to segue back over to Sandy. I would love to attend the writers retreat, but we leave for Florida that weekend. So darn, I've checked my calendar, I bet 3 times, and I'm like, oh, we're not in town. So anyway, we're going to go back to Sandy, and Sandy, tell us again about Yellow Springs.
Yellow Springs is a very, very unique town, and it is supposedly the home of where, do you remember the term flower child from the 60s? Well, apparently that term originated in Yellow Springs, and it's always had that kind of a hippie vibe to it, and they've done well with that particular symbol. And Antioch College is still there as too, and Glen Helen is an incredible nature place. So folks come for the ambiance, they come for life in a different kind of a village than maybe what they're used to, and they come for nature. There's a lot of it, and also ice cream and good food and all that.
Yes,
well,
you have Young's Dairy over there.
Yes, exactly. And they have enlarged it. And I thought it would lose its personality because it's about the size of an airplane hangar, but it fills up. So you have the room just echoes with folks enjoying family, enjoying ice cream. So it's still a great place to hang out. But for this writer's workshop, it used to be called Escape to Yellow Springs. And when I took over as director, I didn't want too much connotation in the term. So Into the Springs can be anything you wish it to be. And it's called Into the Springs Writers Workshop. It's the first weekend in August. So it's this August 5th through the 7th. Next year, it will be August 4th through the 6th as well. And I was in a small community center, and I could only hold about 20 people comfortably. And I thought, I've got to break through the walls in order to bring as many folks in as possible. So I bit the proverbial bullet and went with the Mills Park Hotel that opened in downtown Yellow Springs in 2015. So it's a very upscale hotel, a wonderful place to hang out and just watch the town. They have a bottom and a top front porch that goes across the whole building. So it's quite a fun place to be there. And I'm in the banquet hall. Sure, it holds 150. I might not fill that this year, but I will one day. And it's growing. Folks are excited. They like the spot. They like the ability to park because, again, town's tiny, lots of thousands of people come through. But the interesting thing about this workshop is it's kind of on a masterclass looking like, because I have 3 authors: John Kachuba from Cincinnati area, Raul Ramos from the Yellow Springs, just outside of Yellow Springs, and Juliet Highland. Each of them are different authors. Juliet is a multi-published romance writer, and John does a lot of nonfiction and fiction, and Raoul does the same. And they each come from different backgrounds. So I'm thinking, how, rather than having one of those workshops where, oh, let's see, this hour, how many different options do I have? We're all together, we're all in the same spot. And how do I make their unique sessions become open to everyone? So the idea is that even though we have our own genre specialties, and that does not go away, there is something different about a romance writer versus a memoir writer, but yet altogether they get that story told, and to get it out there so the audience understands where you're going or has that experience. Every writer is shooting for just that same thing. And that is the overall focus. And I Zoom with them. It's almost like a dating site, like, well, these folks all work together. And they have. The last year it was terrific. This year's terrific as well with these 3 new people. And we've got it where humor, one gentleman is all about writing funny. I says, even if you're writing horror, a lighthearted episode in there helps actually kind of let you breathe, and then you hit them with something else. So I've got the idea of themes and tropes, and well, how do you maintain your creativity if you also have children and you've got another job, and how do you promote yourself, and all those. Every one of those 3 authors are unique in their presentation of it, but yet something is going to be just the thing an attendee is going to say, that's it. That's what I needed to hear. So during the day, we have those sessions. And because I've now got this hotel to play with, in the morning, we have morning pages from 7 to 8. On one day, it's create a story. First person writes a couple lines on a paper, passes it to the next person, and it goes around. And the next day, it's workshop a story in the morning. You bring
I want to do that.
Oh, good. You bring something you've written that weekend or somewhere else, and you just share it, and folks will just give you some feedback there. And then that night, Saturday night, I have something that's kind of free and open to the public. From 7 to 8, we have our authors selling their books, autographing, selfies, that. And then from 8 to 10, I have open mic readings with the participants and the staff. And some of them may be hesitant. So I've got a couple actors who are coming in, and they'll read the piece for you. And my assistant is an aspiring writer and actress. And so she could do a female part if you prefer that. And then they're going to do cuttings in between, and there's going to be a cash bar available if somebody wants that too. So it is all in person. It's an opportunity to connect, to kind of cogitate, to ask questions anywhere along the line. Participation is encouraged. Yes, you might be writing notes, but I want you to stop. If you have a question, ask it then. And it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of networking. My 2 little catchphrases are cultivate your craft and grow your community, because yes, we write in isolation most of the time, but at some point in time, we got to get out there and rub elbows with other writers for sure. So that's coming up soon. And just go to www.intothespringswritersworkshop.com, or find me on Facebook. I got a Facebook group going as well. So that's it, basically.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sandy. I did put that back in the chat again for everyone to see. So make sure that you copy that. Now, for those of you that are looking at the chat, a couple of little tips for you. You can either do a screen print if you're on your phone, or if you're on your computer and you open up the chat to everyone, you see the 3 little dots clear to the right. If you click on those, there is a button there that says Save Chat. And it will actually just save it right into your hard drive. And so you don't have to try to write all of that down. I don't know about you, but when I try to write down long addresses like that, sometimes I'll skip a letter or a period or a dot or something, and then I can't get it to work. And so that way you can just save it and copy and paste that works a lot better for me. So anyway, we are at the top of the hour. This has been so much fun. Lynn, thank you so
Yes.
much for being
Lynn,
Thank
on.
you for having me.
Yes.
Continued good luck.
Absolutely. And Sandy, thank you so much for being with us today and telling us about your writers workshop, and also agreeing to be my co-moderator for the Ohio Writers Guild. And we come back to you the second Tuesday of every month. And Kyle said, did it start at 6:30? We just switched just this month to 6 o'clock. We put it out there. We knew some folks might have missed it. So in the future, we're going to be here at 6 o'clock, the second Tuesday of every month. And so please join in, and you can find us in the kathybinner.com. That's my website, and you'll see the link there for all of the replays. And so you can click through on the free Ohio Writers Guild and get all of the replays to all of our authors that we've interviewed over the last 2 years, actually. We also have a Facebook group. We also have a Meetup group, and we just went live today on Amazon Podcast. So you can find us all over the place. So anyway, thank you so much. And we'll see everyone next month.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. See everyone
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.